You are listening to Unequaled with JC Carroll and Ajay Salveson. But first, our friends, the Painted Roses.
Hello. Hi. How are you? Welcome to the inaugural. Okay, is it inaugural? Is that how you say it?
Inaugural.
Inaugural?
I mean, your A was strong.
Potato doesn't really matter.
There you go.
Inaugural episode of Unequaled. JC Carroll, I'm Ajay Salveson. This is so fun, so exciting. We're starting a podcast, obviously, as you can tell. And we are talking about the journey of athletes, coaches, current, former, female, male athletes, doesn't matter, about their journey from where they started to where they're excelling now. And that's something I'm really excited about. So, and I think, before we even get into our journey, because I want to talk about your journey, about how J.C. Carroll became J.C. Carroll, the guy with a jersey hanging in the spectrum, one of only 4 people to have that happen, which is incredible. And before we talk about Ajay being a guy who wanted to be an actor to now being a guy hanging out with J.C. Carroll, we'll get to all that. But when I thought about this podcast, actually, when this podcast idea came up, it came from Tony Nilton of Guild Mortgage. And I remember he called me. I remember this, and he said, "Hey, JC wants to do a podcast with you." And I thought, "Okay, Tony, now you're just making up crap. Like, what's your problem?" And I said, "There's no way. There's no way JC Carroll wants to do a podcast." So I remember calling you, and you were all excited about it. And I know that was like 9 months ago. It feels like 9 years ago that phone call happened, but now here we are. And I remember when I talked to Don Webb, and we were talking about the title of the podcast, and we were talking about something that makes it separate, that can define journeys of excellence, and he came up with the word unequaled, and immediately I thought of you, right, and how great athletes like you have excelled to such an incredibly high level, not just locally here at Utah State, right, but internationally. Like, when you think of the word unequaled, what hits your mind about your journey?
Yeah, with my journey, it's I think part of unequaled is that everyone's journey is different. There's not an equal journey for anybody, and there's lots of ways that people find success. And honestly, that's kind of what I'm interested in is the human story that we want to talk about and discuss with different people, different walks of life, different athletes as we come on. And the idea of a podcast, I remember in college, I kind of had this curiosity. I wondered how people got from where they were. Like in high school, I came back, I'd see high school friends, and 20 years later, how they got from where they were to where they are now. Was it a single decision? Was it a series of life decisions that got them there? And that's kind of some questions I want to ask and understand about people, is where they started, what they thought their life would be, and where it ended up, and what were those steps that got there? Was it a one defining moment, or was it many defining moments or small decisions along the road that led them to greatness?
It's usually something that you don't think of, right? Like, it's a story. Like, I can't wait to talk to guys like Gary Wilkinson,
right? Where
he came from, where he got to, and how he is now, right? Ty Wesley, of course, was one of the best players in IU history and highest recruited guys. But I think there's always a small moment. And for me, my journey of being into the broadcasting business all started because I was mowing lawns with somebody. And there was a conversation going on with a group of friends about sports. And me being Mr. Know-It-All, right, was like, actually, you're wrong, And I corrected my friends on this stat. And they looked at me and they were like, "The fetch is this guy," And I remember my good friend Trevor. It was him and I. We were mowing lawns, and we were at a break. I remember he told me, he said, "Ajay, what are you doing here?" I said, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Why are you here?" I was like, "I don't know. I like mowing lawns, and I need a tan. I don't know, right?"
Wait, hold on. You need a tan? I mean, if any of us need a tan, it's this guy. Let's be honest.
I highly doubt it. But I told him, I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "Ajay, I just watched you rattle off a stat off the top of your head, correcting like 4 or 5 guys talking about a sport. And he said, why aren't you in radio? Like, why aren't you talking sports radio? I was like, dude, because you have to go to school, and I don't want to go to school, and I don't know how to get into the business. And, anyways, he convinced me to go to school, and I ended up having a conversation with a friend who said, hey, we need help on this sports radio show to do a Jazz pregame. It was the playoffs, Game 4 against the Lakers.
All right, hold on, back up. So you're with your friend mowing lawns. You give some statistics, and then he goes, you should go into sports radio. How old were you?
23.
All right, perfect. 23. And then you go to school. You say you go to school. Where are you going to school?
Utah State.
You're at Utah State. And why did you randomly get called to go do this pregame?
So that's funny. So I was playing baseball in the Northern Utah League, and our shortstop was host of a sports radio show called The Full Court Press.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, hey, would you be interested in coming to help out for a show for like 30 or so minutes for the Jazz pregame, or for their pregame of Utah Jazz versus Lakers playoff basketball? This was in 2009.
Okay.
And I said, yeah, sure, why not? I'll give it a try. And I did, and I loved it. Like, I was so enthralled with being on the radio and knowing, honestly, like, this is egotistical, but knowing I was the smartest guy in that room. There was 4 of them, and I was like, nobody knows what I know. Like, I am the best here. It's like when you walk on the basketball court and you're like, yeah, nobody can touch me here. Like, there's 6, 8 great players. Nobody's as good as me. You've had that feeling. I know you have.
Yeah.
And that was kind of my thought. And I got out of there and I said, I'm good. I'm really, really good at this. And then I just became obsessed with it. I became obsessed with being so good at this job. And I would do little things that, as a producer behind the scenes, that nobody would think of. And I remember, like, our on-air talent would love it.
Yeah.
And
for example, what are some of those things? What are some of those things you do that help start to differentiate yourself in behind the scenes as you start doing this? What were some of those things?
That's a great question. So I
mean, we don't give secrets away, so someone comes in and goes behind the scenes and steals your job and your magic. But what are some of those things that you were able to do differently than other people to start to carve out your space?
No, that's a great question. Well, first of all, I was persistent.
Mm-hmm.
I would not leave people alone. I would keep bothering him and bugging him. Like, hey, do you need me? Like, I can come do research for you. And they're like, research for what? I'm like, for your show. So finally I convinced Eric Franson at the Cashfly Media Group. I said, hey, let me come do research. And I would just type out all these insane and unnecessary notes. It was an only hour show. And I swear to you, I would type out 3 hours worth of notes for a show. And I became really good at it. And then I was the board op for Bear River High School sports.
Okay.
So, and they would do like just simple things like, hey, instead of welcoming them, like I would have music to welcome them back. Simple, really simplistic things that I was like, this needs something else. This is boring. And I just became obsessed with finding little things that nobody else would do. Like creating highlight clips and montages to use for their post game. And the more I did that stuff, the better I got. Or at least the more confident I got in myself and my talent as a sports radio guy. Like, so for example, for you, let me ask you, playing basketball, you were always good since, the day you were born, right? You could touch a basketball, throw in the hoop, it was super easy. When did it click for you?
Yeah. That
you could say, I'm good enough to play at any league?
Yeah, well, that's a tough question. So, I wasn't one of these kids growing up that you hear the story like, oh, I wasn't very good, and then all of a sudden I got good. Like, I was always at the upper levels of my age groups. There were kind of two instances that really stand out to me that I started to kind of change my mind is I can do this. And one was I was a freshman or sophomore, God, I can't remember now, but they invited me to go play against Rich County High School, Rich High, their varsity team. We took like our JV, and it was a 3-game tournament, and in that game, that tournament, I scored 29, 32, 36 points in that tournament as a freshman playing against their varsity, and it kind of started to change my mindset. I started to get this feeling that if I could touch the paint, I was going to make everything I ever shot. And that feeling just kind of perpetuated, and I started to have that feeling of confidence, and I wanted it more. And for me, it became that the more I wanted it, the more practice I put in, the more time I put in, the more I wanted to be dominant. I wanted to erase all questions in the mind of my coaches whether or not I should play. And at the same time, my teammates, right? If you're going to be a guy that's going to shoot a lot, I always felt like I need to show my teammates that I could be efficient, that I could shoot a high percentage. And then if anyone looked at me, parents or anything would say, hey, JC shoots too much. Well, we'll go, all right, let's look. He's shooting 62% from the field. Let's give it to your son that's shooting 45% or 30%. And it's just an argument that doesn't hold water at that point. When you're able to shoot efficiently, make and score efficiently like that, there wasn't much anyone could say. And that kind of became an obsession, so parents didn't have an argument to go complain to coaches because I shot too much.
What was your training regimen like to get to be that good? I've heard stories about Jimmer Fredette dribbling through a dark church hallway with a basketball, right? Was that what was your regimen like?
No, all those kind of legendary stories. I remember as a kid, I'd run things through my head, thinking that one day I'd be interviewed and be asked, what did you do? I would have those conversations with myself in my head as I was shooting baskets. And, one dumb thing I always thought about was on my driveway, my hoop was right here. And then we had a rock pile behind it. And that's where my dog went to the bathroom and stuff like that. That's where the dog poop was and the dog would pee. So in my head, it was like if I missed, my ball would roll off into the dog crap, and I'd have to. So
you would have to go.
I'd have to go through and go get it. So that was something on my driveway that I always thought about. I was like, look, if I miss, I got to chase my ball over there. It's gonna, it's gonna land in a pile of dog crap. So I need to make sure to make the shot.
Make the shot.
Those were some dumb things when I was little, and then as I got better and as I started growing, it was like, if I want to get to the level I want to be, I need to be disciplined. I need to have a regimen. And so that regimen looked like it was 500 shots a day, 4 times a week, every day in the summer.
Wow.
And the shots, and the shots were very organized. It wasn't like I just was out there doing anything random. Everything was listed out. It's 25 form shots, is 25 mic in, it's 75 elbow, 25 elbow to short corner, 25 elbow to elbow, 25 short corner to elbow. That gives me 75 shots. And then I go one dribble pull up, one dribble pull up from the right wing, one dribble pull up, one dribble step back, 3-pointers. And I could go on and on. These workouts are memorized. I did them so much, I can sit here with a kid and we can walk through it without hesitation. And ultimately that routine is what helped me become the type of shooter that I was, or that I became. And I kind of thought in my mind everyone was doing it. I found out later in years that not everyone was.
Holy smokes. All started with just didn't want to have the ball go in the dog crap. I love that story.
That was about it. Yeah, that was it, man. And, my dad was great. My dad, he kind of got me fired up. As a freshman, I played a 3-on-3 tournament in Evanston, Wyoming, and my team didn't win. And my dad is one of the most competitive humans that I've ever met. He's coached for 40 years. And I just remember sitting in the backseat of the car. He goes, and he's like, I can't believe I got a kid that can't score with basketball. I can't believe that you can't score. And so he took me on the driveway that day, and he's like, we're going to learn how to score. And it's not like I was bad at that point. I was one of the top kids in my town, but I don't know, he saw more in me and pushed me. And I liked that from my dad. I got along well with my dad, and I wasn't the kid that was like, oh, Dad, don't tell me what to do. That wasn't me. I was like, okay.
I would have begged for that. My dad, in Little League Basketball, hey, everybody, let Ajay score a basket here, okay? If nobody will play defense, just let him go to the hoop. Please don't swat a shot while not jumping. Just let him score once. My dad would have been thrilled if I scored a bucket. I love that of your dad. My dad had no expectations of me. And still doesn't as a broadcaster, by the way. He's
that's not true.
You're still really bad, Ajay. Quit with your bad takes. Let's take a break. When we come back, I want to talk about – we'll talk about your success like crazy because there's a lot of it. I want to talk about the trials that help get you through success? Because both you and I probably had bumps, right? Downs of trying to get to where we are, and I think that would be something that I think we both can relate to. That makes our stories unequal to maybe everybody else, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Great.
that's all coming up here on the Unequaled Podcast.
Hi, this is Karen Nielsen with Guild Mortgage in Logan, Utah. Beyond great rates, we're committed to ongoing customer service even after your loan closes. We want you to experience knowledge, communication, and amazing customer service for a lasting relationship. Make Guild Mortgage your trusted partner.
A big thanks to all those who are listening to today's podcast here on Unequaled. JC Carroll, I'm Ajay Salveson. Want to thank our wonderful sponsors as well. Larry Bradley of Abode & Co. Real Estate, your trusted real estate broker, and avid Aggie fan, avid JC Carroll fan, by the way, too. Your number one advocate when it comes to anything real estate. Go with Larry Bradley. And Ted Stokes, former local athlete, Scabby quarterback, former walk-on with Utah State. Ted Stokes has established the number one bankruptcy law firm in the state of Utah. Stokes Law's playbook is helping individuals and businesses overcome tough financial situations. If you're facing garnishment, repossession, foreclosure, or just overwhelming debt, give Stokes Law a call at 435-213-4771. Again, that's 435-213-4771, or visit their website at stokesbankruptcy.com. Stokes Law is a debt relief agency and provides guidance under the United States Bankruptcy Code. Again, JC Carroll, Monty Salveson. We're in this beautiful, beautiful building, this med spa. And this is gorgeous. Your wife runs this thing, right? You and your wife and Jess Wilkinson.
Yeah. So my wife and Jessica and Heidi, Bailey's aunt, decided that this was something that was needed up here in Cache Valley. It's a luxury spa where men, women can come and get pampered. They offer a little bit of everything. Awesome massages, sports massage, recovery. There's a red light sauna for which is great for recovery as well. There's all the lasers and everything you could want for laser hair removal, hydrofacial for facials, the BBL Moxie machine to get rid of reduced scarring and skin pigmentation, and all the products that you want as far as skincare. So kind of a dream of my wife. She got with another Aggie friend with the Wilkinsons, her, Jess, and then Heidi, who has been in the aesthetics business for most of her life. She was actually a King's dancer.
What?
In Sacramento Kings.
I didn't know this.
Yeah, back in the Vlade Divac, the Mike Bibby days.
Oh, those were the glory days for Kings
back
fans.
in the glory days.
Oh,
Peja Stojakovic.
Doug Christie.
Yeah, she spent like 10 years or more being a cheerleader for him. She was an all-star cheerleader for the NBA and all that kind of stuff. So she's decided to move up to Cache Valley and run this aesthetics and wellness spa, and it's been just great. Such a cool spot. As I've seen customers coming in and out, I'm really impressed what this can do to help people feel better about themselves.
That's awesome. JC, we were talking here on Unequal, here, our first episode that we've done on this podcast. I'm so excited about it. Your journey and my journey of success. But with every success also has a downfall, right? Those like little plateau moments and those little hill moments, maybe that you feel like you aren't where you want to be, or maybe you're stuck, or maybe you're second guessing yourself. When was that first moment for you? I mean, maybe at Utah State or college. What was that?
Yeah. The first moment like that was I'll go back to high school, and in high school I thought as a freshman I was going to be playing varsity basketball. That was my goal. I was like, hey, I'm going to play varsity basketball, and they put me on the freshman basketball team. I didn't play any varsity, and finally about halfway through the season they invited me on a varsity trip. I was like, hey, this is it. I'm going to start playing varsity. I'm going to show out, and they put me on the sophomore bench, and I didn't start. I didn't play the first quarter. With 13 seconds left in the second quarter, coach put me in. I played 13 seconds of a sophomore game as a freshman, and that was it. And for me, that was kind of a low point. That's when I really started to want to take things in my own hands, and I knew I had to get better. I knew I had to improve so that coaches could not I wanted to take the decision out of the coach's hands whether or not I was good enough or not. It was just going to be so blaringly obvious that they had to have me on the court. And so for me, that was a big motivator. Like, I mean, I'm 40 years old, and I'm still thinking about the 13 seconds that coach put me into the sophomore game. Like, that's ridiculous. I should have moved on from it for now, but I'm still angry about it. I'm still, it still like motivates me to get better. So I kind of hold on to things like that. But that was it high consequences in my life? No, it was a sophomore game. But those kinds of things continue to motivate me.
I always wondered, for me, it was when I first started at the Utah Jazz Radio Network at the Zone in Salt Lake. And I just came from Cash Value Media Group where I was so good at my job. I was better than anybody else, and I knew it.
Yeah.
I go into the Zone, and also I'm working with these guys who are not only better than me, but it's hands down, bar none, head and shoulders better than me. And I remember I couldn't catch on. I was slow at everything. I couldn't hit the right things. I didn't have an ear like I thought I did.
Yeah.
And I remember one night, it was after a post game, Oregon and Utah. And I know this doesn't like really maybe impact like your 13 seconds, but I remember the post game didn't go well, and it was my fault. It was completely my fault, and it was so bad that the guy who was hosting the post game, my guy who was training me, left me there to go to a Halloween party, and he said, "Hey, so and so, if you're out there, get back here and help Audrey do his job." On air, said that.
Oh, really?
Dude, I went home, and I'll be honest, I cried.
Yeah.
For about maybe an hour and a half because I thought I was getting fired. Like, this was the biggest moment when I got hired by the Utah Jazz Radio Network, Scott Gerard and co. And I had just failed miserably, JC, miserably. And I remember so the schedule comes out every week, and they, and I thought when the schedule was going to come out, I either wasn't going to get the schedule or my name wasn't going to be on the schedule. And I saw the schedule, and my name was in like 4 different spots to produce things. And I was so relieved. I'm a baby, but I started crying again because I thought, oh my gosh, I got a second chance. But that was such a low peak to be like, to go from being the guy to being, no, you're not even close to being where you're supposed to be. You're not even, we wouldn't even consider you to be, for another job anywhere else. And it was so hard. And it was a huge, huge ego, like sledgehammer to the ego kind of a thing. And it woke me up a lot that I have a lot of things I had to improve in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. And I would stay for hours just learning how to run a board. I would stay and I would do anything and everything to try and get better. And it took me a while, and it took me a long while to develop a listening ear and what it takes to actually be a good producer. And, man, it still hits me today. I still have the notebook of like that night where I wrote in this notebook about my day, on that fateful night, Oregon and Utah. I think it was like November 4th, 2014, and one of the worst working days of my whole entire life.
Yeah. So good. So you had that moment. There's a low point in your career, but then it sounds like you're persistent, you're dedicated, you went back to work, you became smarter, you became more informed.
But you don't have a choice.
You don't have a choice. But that's the thing, you do have a choice. And there's a lot of people that would go the other way and maybe just quit. Like that's the difference between a lot of people where they end up finding success ultimately and those that end up going somewhere else, I think, and finding a different job. Like a lot of people could have just said, you could have looked at that guy on there and said, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Like, he's wrong. I know what I'm doing. And you could have just blamed him, but you didn't. And I think today that happens with a lot of people. They walk in and go, it's this person's fault, not my fault. It's his fault. It wasn't me. I think there's a lot of pointing fingers at other people and not interiorizing and say, all right, where can I improve? Where can I do things better? So, you say, what else was I supposed to do? Well, that's you. That's not everybody.
That's crazy to think that you would quit, though.
Yeah,
like you worked so hard to get there. Why would there be another choice?
Yes, and that's why you ended up getting there. That's why you're still able to do these things, because you weren't that person. And I love that it wasn't even a second thought for you. It was like, hey, what else am I going to do? I just got to get better at my job. Where there are other people that go, no, they don't know what they're talking about. I did my stuff fine, or I'm fine where I'm at, and you just rest on your laurels and what you've done forever and not work to get better. Like that's That's what makes you unique. Like, that's what makes you, that's what ultimately ends up start to separate people that are just good at what they do or bad at what they do, and those end up becoming great. Like, honestly, it is.
Wow. So give me somebody, and I know your dad's probably one of them, if not the one, who helped you rise above the heap, if you will.
Yeah. My mom was an excellent support system. They would rebound for me. They'd take me to gyms. We had keys to every school in the town, so I could go inside and practice. Now, I did have a really good high school coach named Jim Schaefer. That he's the guy that ultimately gave me my first 500 shot workout that I became obsessed with. So I talked to he's still coaching. I talked to his team about a month ago.
Oh, that's cool.
As they were getting ready to play. Like, he's like, hey, can you get on? And I was able to talk to him, and he's a smart coach, and so that's really fun. So my coach, look, I had other things that motivated me. I had a high school principal when I was an 8th grader. He's a high school principal, and with a group of boys, and they start asking, what am I going to be when I grow up? And he starts, and all the kids, he goes down to all the kids, goes, oh, you're going to be like your dad, you're going to do oil field, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. And me, like everyone else, I go, hey, what am I going to do? Keep in mind, I'm like a 7th or 8th grader. He looks at me and goes, you're going to be a nobody. Like, why would you say that to a 7th or 8th grader? No matter what you actually believe, like, why would that? And I kind of laughed. He was serious. He's like, no, you're going to be a nobody. And I was like, such a weird, I'm 40. I'm looking back, like, such a weird thing to say to a kid. But it motivated me. He's like, why does this guy not see anything in me? Why does he think so little of me? And so that motivated me. And I hate to say it, it's like, I'm going to show him. Like, I'll show him. I'll do something. Not saying that I ever became anybody, but it's like, I'm gonna show him. In college, I was working a job at the sports academy. I was doing the kids club during the summer because we couldn't make money back then. So I had a summer job. My first summer job, I worked in the oil fields for 12 hours a day after my freshman year of college. No one knows that. 12 years in the oil field, or 12 hours a day in the oil fields during the summer after my freshman year at Utah State. Next year, I got a job here in town. But I had a coworker, and I killed it. I had a coworker that goes, I see you working at McDonald's in the next few years. I was like, what? Like, I couldn't understand. I was like, what? But those things motivated me. I hate to say it, but I've interiorized a bunch of these things, and it's like, all right, hey, not just I'll show you, but I'm going to do this for me. Somewhere someone sees something less than me, I'm going to show that I'm more than what they see.
I'm like you. I'm really petty.
Don't use that word. That sounds terrible.
Yeah, I know. But I had that happen. Like, I remember my mom and dad wanted to get me this job because they didn't think I could get any other job.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Are you serious? Like, you don't think I can succeed?" I felt like that, and maybe that's not what they meant. But I took it that way. I took it really personal. Like Michael Jordan ran Last Dance. I took that personal.
Yeah, great. If you haven't watched that, how have you not watched that? But yes, go ahead. Keep going.
No, you're right, though. But there's an obsession. So then when I go and work with other people, or when I was starting, there was a lot of people like, well, are you actually going to be able to accomplish this dream of yours? Okay, well, wait, you don't have this, and you're not doing this, and you're not here. So do you actually have a realistic goal in life? I said, yeah, that is my realistic goal. This is what I want to be, and this is where I want to go. And people would never give you a chance to prove it. They would just write you off and say, you know what, that's cute, fun, thanks, go on with your life, and we'll see you back here or whatever, McDonald's.
Yeah.
And no offense to McDonald's, really. But I was obsessed with proving, and I still am. To this very day, JC, I still am obsessed with proving people wrong. And it has become an absolute obsession of mine, like you. And I love that 13-second story. That honestly tapped right into my gear right there.
Yeah.
Hearing the 13-second story. And I think, again, as much as we've had those people doubt us, we've had a lot of people support us. I've had a numerous amount of people support me, but I think a lot of them jumped on the wagon after I started succeeding.
Yeah.
Like, right? I mean, they're all like, oh, yeah, hey, we knew you were going to do it, man. You were great. We all knew you had a dream for it.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, and I don't know where I saw it or this was teammates, but I'd have teammates that I played with that as they were growing up. People say, "Hey, don't forget me when I when you blow up. Don't forget me when you're in the NBA. Don't forget me. No one's saying that to me, but to some of my teammates, don't forget me to friends and family. And it kind of went the other way too. Like, hey, don't forget me if I don't make it. Like, I'm going to try everything I got, but don't forget me if I don't make it. And that's something that's always just kind of been powerful to me with some of my teammates, that they end up making it. They end up doing great things, but there's a lot of young people that have these high aspirations, and some work hard, some do everything they got, but for whatever reason, they don't end up making it, and they get treated differently, like they failed or something. I'd much rather hang around people that have tried to do big things and failed than hang around people that have never tried anything. They've never tried to do more than what they're capable of, and just never taken that first step towards something, a lifelong goal or a career or a job that they wanted as a kid. Those people are hard for me to be around. They just settle, I guess. Anyone that tries for something great and fails, I love those people, and I will spend every minute I have with people like that.
It's one of the best stories around, JC. I love talking to you about it, and I could do this for hours. Crazy enough, our time's up.
Yeah.
That's amazing to me. This is going to be fun. This is going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to continue this with you.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think it'll be fun. We want to get a lot of other people's stories, people that have done things. There's a cross-country girl at Utah State that I was kind of telling you about that I'd like to talk to. She was, I met her this summer. I'm sitting talking to her. I was like, what are you doing? She got to do cross-country. She's working at a bank at this time in the summer. What'd you do before you came here? She goes, I ran 9 miles before I came to work. Work started at 9. So she ran 9 miles before 9 o'clock. I go, what are you doing after this? She goes, I go run 9 more miles after work. Like that story, I think, is so motivational, so inspirational. Just what some of these young people are doing to I as much as disciplined as I think I am, I got to play basketball.
Yeah, I need something to run with.
I threw a ball in the hoop. Like, she's out running 9 miles, and then 9 miles after. Like, that's 18 miles in a day.
It's amazing.
So I think there's just some really interesting mindset things we can learn, and I'm excited for it.
JC Carroll, I'm AJ Salves. I want to thank everybody who's been a part of today's podcast. Adam Lurcher and Bailey Johnson, our behind-the-scenes crew. Always got to give them a big thanks. Our sponsors, Guild Mortgage, Tony Nilton, Kerry Nilton, and their crew. Larry Bradley and Boat & Co. Real Estate. The Stokes Law Firm, appreciate them. Bridgeland Adventure Park, I think you're going to go back there this summer, aren't you? Hang out with us in Bear Lake?
Yeah. Why not? In the summertime around here, there's not much better place to go than Bear Lake, and the Adventure Park has been great. My kids love it.
We need to go on the swing together. I want to see you on the swing with me once, please. I beg of you.
Hey, that's fine as long as you don't put your arm around me or something.
Claire Webb, by the way, they're accepted in corporate groups. You can find more info at blap.rocks. I want to thank the rest of our sponsors, and for all those who are listening to the podcast, hit subscribe. However you're listening to your podcast, wherever you get them, hit the subscribe button. Tell us that you like it, and if you don't, just still tell us that you like it. Lie to us. But we want to thank everybody for listening to today's podcast of Unequaled. We'll talk to you next time.
Oh, mama, what a tune could get me to feel this way. I think I'll be coming home. It's been such a long time. Oh, I think I might have made one too many a mistake. If you help me find my way,